What's your disagreement?
My disagreement is just basically about the fact that black women shouldn't have to feel obligated to smile to black men. We're holding a lot of trauma, we're holding a lot of problems,
How old are
mental
you?
health
Oh,
issues.
oh, hold on. How old are you?
24.
Um, I'm gonna say this one more time. I need you to pay attention. I need all black women to pay attention. The world does not owe you understanding or me understanding. If you have all this trauma, go seek professional help because the rest of us do not have to suffer you.
Okay, it's easy to tell black
It is.
women and black
Do
people
you not
in the
under
black
whose
community to
no
get
whose
help,
responsibility is it to get the help they need?
but it's not available readily to our
That is
community that easily.
bullshit.
With the wealth gap growing, how many people
Whose
can afford?
responsibility is it to get the mental health they need?
Now, if you're a good observer, if you're a good listener, you probably already picked up that this young lady proudly identifies herself as a victim. And if you listen a little closely, you can tell that she picked up the base layer of this ideology, which is the left, most likely from the media, from celebrities, talk shows, probably a political leader that she admires or something. But I can tell that it has rewarded her with feigned knowledge on these topics, which can be dangerous when talking about topics that people hold dear to their heart. Now, somebody who I admire, a scholar, Sheikh Solio Fauzan, had elaborated on this. And he said that the person with feigned knowledge is more dangerous than the ignorant person because the ignorant person will acknowledge their ignorance. Thus, they will set bounds to how far they're willing to go with their tongue versus the person with feigned knowledge on something. They know no such limits. They are under the impression that they actually know what they're talking about, that they have sufficient knowledge to teach people. Thus, they spew out misleading information, wind up presenting things as facts, when in reality they're just theories, all with good intentions though. But understand, your intentions does not erase the fact that you are misguiding people by the mass, misguiding perfectly healthy, perfectly capable people who can overcome their circumstances. You're telling them that there's some sort of victim trapped in this inescapable maze of oppression, and that's why they're unhappy. Bullshit. See, when Kevin tried to challenge her accountability, when he said, whose responsibility is it to seek the help that is needed? She said, it is not available readily to us in our community that easily. And what about the welfare ploy? How can people afford bullshit? I'm glad he cut her off because, all right, first of all, that first statement had about 2 to 3 unnecessary words in there. And I understand because us black people, we tend to be flashy. This comes from an insecurity that we have about being perceived as poor or as broke. So we tend to be a little flashy with the little things that we do get. But this also translates into our language and how we talk. We are insecure also about seeming ignorant. Black people hate seeming like they're dumb. And this is why we tend to be a little flashy with our words also. But in an attempt to sound intellectual, we can neglect our point sometimes and end up sounding dumb anyway. But I'm gonna keep letting this go and see what this young lady's talking about. Sorry for the rant.
We don't go get help, ma'am. You just had a therapist on here before. I talked to psychiatrists, and first of all, understand who you're talking to. I know hundreds of, anyway. What do black people tend to deal with? How do black women tend to deal with their mental health issues? With a licensed clinician or with Jesus?
That is what's pushed to us since
No, no,
from the
no,
age
no.
that we are
No,
little.
no, ma'am.
That's something we grow
I
up with.
asked who. Let's see.
See, I told you. This young lady is clearly brainwashed. She sees everything from a victim's perspective. But here's the thing. Once you acknowledge that you are getting the wrong information, that you are doing something wrong, it is now your individual responsibility to fix that problem. And this terrifies women. This is why women always try to beat around the bush or create new words and new phrases to describe their bad decisions. Yeah, what I did was bad, but I don't want it to sound that bad. You see, people who understand human nature are aware of this. This is why when you go to places like a drug and alcohol meeting, they will make you stand up, state your name, and admit to being a drug addict. Because acknowledging that you're a drug addict is primary. Accountability is a prerequisite of overcoming hardships or overcoming obstacles. You don't get to say that, but this is what they've been pushing to us for years and not do anything about it. He told you clearly the world does not owe you understanding. Because I bet you this young lady, when she goes out in the street and she see homeless men, she could care less of how they got there. Just imagine if homeless men start demanding that you understand their trauma or that you accept their bad decisions. You would think they was crazy. And that may be extreme, but this is how we look at you, ladies. But I'm gonna let her finish.
That's who they see. We're not gonna play. I'm not gonna play the lily pad game. Did they go to a clinician or did they go to the church?
The church most often.
All right, and these are educated. Most of these women are educated, and they've heard about therapy. They make the choice not to go. No different than, I'm gonna switch it up. No different than women understanding here that being 200 pounds and 5 foot tall is unhealthy. But yet 80% of our women are overweight, and 80% of that is obese. They know the truth. They choose to do something else.
The narrative pushed to us most often is that a guy wants a woman with a big ass. He wants, a thick lady.
Accountability is kryptonite to modern women.
Bars. It's crazy because that's true. And since I was young, I always been interested in human nature. But a few years ago, when I was up top, when I was upstate, for some reason I got interested in psychology. And in personality psychology, it's this concept called eternal locus control. And people who possess eternal locus control, they tend to believe that everything that happens to them in their life is greatly influenced by their own abilities, actions, or mistakes. But on the contrary, there is also an external locus control. And people who possess external locus control tend to believe that other forces, such as government, society factors, media, just other people's actions, are more responsible for the events that occur in their individual lives. And parents, man, especially young parents, be aware of letting your child fall victim to the victim mentality. Teach them that even a good excuse is still just an excuse.
Yeah, you say the traumas. If I accept them, then you got to do something about them. Because what about the traumas that the black man has to deal with? But we still have to get out here and be functioning people in society, contributing. You don't get to walk around and say, have a special victim status.
I'm not saying we should have a special victim status, but our circumstance is different. We are women.
We are less. You're 24 years old. Is your circumstance harder or easier than your grandmother and your great grandmother?
Exponentially easier. We have access to information we didn't have.
Exponentially easier, but you're handling it worse. Your grandmother, your great grandmother actually could work with a black man with more trauma.
Because they understood that the black woman and the black man are on the same side. Now that we are all free and independent and we could do whatever we want to, why would we seek to, be one with the black man? We think that being...
Thank you. Clip it, slice it, put it on World Star. She said it, not me. Now that you're independent, you don't need to be with. There you go. There you go. And there you.
Now, this is a perfect example of let someone talk long enough and they'll say something dumb. See, black people, I told you, in an attempt to sound intellectual, sometimes we can neglect the point that we're trying to make and wind up sounding dumb anyway. She made Kevin's point for him. Because women have more choices, because they have more freedom nowadays, why would they be with the black man? Shorty, are you for real? Are you serious? How much trauma have you really accumulated already to hate black men so much? You're 24 years old. You talking like you lived through the Great Depression or the Holocaust or some shit. And the fake thing is, you are most likely complaining about problems that don't apply to you. You look like you spent some time in a college. Sound like it. Don't look like you missed any meals. You look like you can afford some therapy. But you're naming all of these problems that you believe other people have. You see, I don't get the idea of going to college to get an education just to complain and beg the government to treat you better. Now, I could see where you got it from, the media, because these woke activists are the ones telling you that you have to speak up, you have to speak out, and that is the only way to change things. That's bullshit. What they are basically telling you is that you don't have the power yourself to change the things in your life. So harass the men in power until they eventually give in. See, this is the ideology of a woman. This is what women do to their boyfriends and to their husbands. When they want a bag real bad, they will get on your nerve and they will harass you until you give them what they want. And the sad part is we have men lined up right with these women complaining and begging the government for shit. I'm offended.
Oh, and there you go. There you go, black man. There it is. She's finally got one to say it.
Build businesses with us.
Your grandmothers, your grandmothers, and your grandmothers and your great grandmothers had more trauma and more stress and did it better. They have exponentially less and they're handling it worse. But it's because they're free and can do what the hell they want to. They don't need to be with you. So you don't need to feel any guilt for taking care of you, for putting yourself first and making your passion, your purpose, your priority. You don't need to feel guilty because this 24-year-old woman just said it. They don't feel any guilt about it. Thank you. So don't ask black men to care about your traumas when you can't even smile at us.
From what I heard, the only disagreement she really had was that she doesn't feel black women should feel obligated to smile with black men. And she didn't have a valid reason, or maybe she didn't know how to articulate her point. So she just pulled out her list of complaints and just rambled on. Not my cup of tea. Remember what I told you, black people. Even a good excuse is still just an excuse. I'm out.